What if I told you that the most iconic German luxury pen brand wasn't saved in Hamburg, but in Tokyo? By the 1970s, Montblanc was in trouble. Fountain pens were dying in the West. Cheap ballpoints were everywhere. Typewriters ruled the office, and the world stopped caring about beautiful handwriting. Montblanc's identity as a writing instrument brand? Fading. Its sales falling, its prestige quietly slipping away. But halfway across the world, a different story was unfolding. In Japan, a quiet obsession was taking shape. Not just admiration, but devotion. Collectors were falling in love with the Meisterstück, treating it not just as a pen, but a symbol of refinement. This is the untold story of how one nation, with a love for calligraphy, craftsmanship, and detail, kept Montblanc alive and turned it into the powerhouse we know today. Today, we unpack how Japan saved Montblanc and why it still matters. Let's go. In the early 20th century, Montblanc was a powerhouse. Founded in 1906 in Germany, its Meisterstück 149 became a global icon by the 1950s, synonymous with leadership, class, and timeless design. But by the 1970s, the world was changing fast. The rise of cheap ballpoints from companies like Bic reshaped the writing industry. Disposable, convenient, ubiquitous. Suddenly, fountain pens were seen as outdated, high-maintenance relics, something your grandfather might have used. Montblanc, built on craftsmanship and tradition, struggled to keep up. Sales plummeted. Their core markets in Europe and the US were abandoning luxury pens for practical office tools. The brand still had prestige, but no momentum. Even the iconic 149 couldn't compete with the growing flood of plastic alternatives. Worse, internally, Montblanc was adrift. Innovation stalled, design stagnated. They were a luxury brand in a world that no longer had time for luxury. By 1977, the crisis reached its peak. Montblanc was acquired by Alfred Dunhill Limited, a bold rescue, but not a guarantee of survival. From the outside, the brand still looked elegant, but on the inside, Montblanc was a legend, on the verge of becoming a museum piece. And then, halfway across the world, a spark. While Montblanc was fading from desks in Europe and America, something remarkable was happening 5,000 miles away. Tokyo, the 1980s, the peak of Japan's bubble economy. We're talking soaring real estate prices, luxury cars, gold watches, and pens. Pens became sacred. In Japan, writing wasn't just function, it was expression. Calligraphy was art. Journaling was self-reflection. Gifting a fine pen, a gesture of deep respect. This cultural reverence for handwriting, rooted in centuries of tradition, aligned perfectly with Montblanc's DNA. While the West moved toward disposable Bic pens, Japan doubled down on craftsmanship. Montblanc wasn't just surviving in Japan, it was thriving. Walk into a 1980s department store in Ginza or Shibuya, and you'd find entire glass counters, lined with Meisterstücks, solitaires, limited editions, each displayed like a museum piece. Japanese collectors weren't casual buyers. They studied their pens, sought out rare nibs, compared barrel engravings, paid extra for models, never even inked. Calligraphy, journaling, gift-giving. Montblanc was suddenly everywhere. And without Japan's hunger, Montblanc might never have made it out of the 70s. By the mid-1980s, Japan wasn't just Montblanc's busiest market, it was its most passionate. Collectors like Hiroshi Yamada weren't just buying pens, they were hunting them. Rare nibs, discontinued trims, early 149 engravings. Each detail was studied like a museum artifact, and it wasn't just a few enthusiasts. In 1985 alone, Japan accounted for 30% of Montblanc's global sales. While the West tossed pens in drawers, Japan built shrines to them. Carefully lit displays in private homes, custom-built cases. Even pens that were never inked, preserved like relics. Shops like Maruzen, Itoya, and Kingdom Note. They became pilgrimage spots, not for quick purchases, but for ritual. Collectors would visit weekly, compare cap bands, debate 1970s ebonite feeds versus 1980s resin. It wasn't just consumerism, it was a kind of curation. Montblanc wasn't merely surviving in Japan, it was being reborn. By the late 80s and early 90s, Japan wasn't just buying Montblanc pens from boutiques, they were quietly exporting them. Collectors began flipping vintage Montblancs overseas. through classifieds, pen shows, and eventually early internet forums. A Montblanc 146 from Tokyo that sold for 45,000 yen could fetch double in Europe, sometimes triple in the US, and with supply so high, Japan became a gray market goldmine. Shops like Komehyo in Osaka or Shinjuku's back alleys. They were packed with vintage pens, wedge nibs, split feeds, limited editions, barely used. And while Montblanc boutiques tried to keep things formal, the gray market, wildly informal. One day, you could walk into a shop and find a rare 1980s 149 for the price of a modern ballpoint. The trust in Japanese sellers ran deep. Even today, listings from Japan dominate eBay's luxury pen category. Montblanc's global reputation was being reshaped, not by their marketing department in Hamburg, but by Japanese collectors, with magnifying glasses and a taste for precision. Even today, Japan remains one of Montblanc's biggest and most loyal markets. Walk through Itoya in Tokyo, or Kingdom Note, and you'll see pens treated like heirlooms, collectors whispering about nib width, some models still never inked, because in Japan, a pen isn't just a tool, it's a statement, a gift, a spiritual object, tied to thought and identity. Montblanc embraced that. They launched limited editions tailored to Japanese taste. Elegant trims, subtle finishes, symbolic engravings. They opened flagship boutiques in Ginza and Shibuya. They listened to the collector base. And that loyalty, it helped Montblanc survive global slowdowns and stay relevant. In the West, Montblanc was a flex. But in Japan, Montblanc became cultural. Because here's the truth. Montblanc wasn't just saved by Japan's money. It was saved by Japan's values. Craftsmanship, precision, ritual, respect. So next time someone asks, why does Montblanc still matter? Just say 2 words, Tokyo saved them. This was The Pen Insider. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. We dig deep into the world of luxury pens, their psychology, scandals, and hidden histories. And trust me, we're just getting started. The pen is the silent ambassador of civilization. Henry Ward Beecher.